Hi, Sammy.
Okay.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Rachel.
Thank you for coming on to have a talk with us.
Yes.
So, what is your role in SATA actually?
Okay, I'm a case manager, specializing in lasting power of attorney and advanced care planning.
Okay. So today you're here to talk with us to share about LPA and ACP, advanced care planning and lasting power of attorney. So, our first question is, what is that? What is lasting power of attorney and what is advanced care planning? Is it the same? Is it linkable? Is it connected to each other?
Okay, both are very important for person's individual planning for your future. One is pertaining to legal matters in LPA, and the other one is or advanced care planning or ACP is pertaining more to a person's health. Now, I will need to explain more in detail because it is quite technical. They are both interrelated, and it is also very important for a person's individual planning. So perhaps I can use some slides to explain, to make it clearer for anyone to, in case I speak too fast, at least you can follow what's on screen. So what is lasting power of attorney, okay, or LPA? So now, LPA is actually a legal document that meets under the Mental Capacity Act in Singapore, which allows a person, right, who's called a donor, anyone who is aged 21 years old and above and has mental capacity to voluntarily appoint one or more individuals known as a donee. So you can appoint anyone who is 21 years old and above, but that person must be an undischarged bankrupt and has mental capacity. So this is for a person, the donor, to make decisions. This is for the donee. That means the one that you appoint to make decisions and act on your behalf if you lose mental capacity in future. So what I mean by losing mental capacity is that in case you fall seriously ill, such as you are in a coma, or you may have an accident and unable to speak for yourself, or due to serious illness such as dementia or Alzheimer's, then you are not able to make any decisions, then that person under the law can automatically take over for you legally. So what is loss of mental capacity is a person who is unable to make decisions for himself because of an impairment or disturbance of the mind, which means that a person who lacks mental capacity, when he or she cannot understand information relevant to the decision, or retain the information, or weigh the information as part of decision making, or communicate the decision. That means you are able to answer yes or no whether you want or don't want. So now, what happens if I lose mental capacity? Can my next of kin automatically manage my finance? That means suppose you are sick and you are incapable of letting others know your decisions. Can your next of kin, meaning anyone that is your family members, can they automatically take over? The answer is no. Your next of kin will not automatically have a legal authority to manage your affairs and finances should you lose mental capacity, unless you have made an LPA to appoint them. If you have a excuse me, if you have a will, do I still need an LPA? Now, this is a common misconception. A lot of people mistaken a will and an LPA, which I will explain later. Your will only comes into effect after you're passing on, after your death. But LPA comes into effect when you are still alive but have lost mental capacity to make decisions, probably due to illness or an accident. So this is LPA. So now, as your donor, right, you can appoint up to 2 persons to give you powers to represent, to make decisions for you. And decisions for LPA can be based on your personal welfare, which includes where you live, who you live with, your day-to-day decisions such as medication or participating in social activities, or that person can make certain decisions for you medically. That means to give clearance whether you will need any trials, or the doctors recommend that there's some new procedures. Would you be able to take that new medication or not? So that person can decide for you. Except life-sustaining treatment. That one only you yourself can state in advance, or the doctor will always have the final say. So donors can make decisions for certain medical decisions except life-sustaining treatment. So the other thing that your donor can decide for you is on your property and affairs, which includes buying and selling, renting and mortgaging your property, and managing your CPF, your bank account, your shares and investments, etc. So you can appoint them to make both welfare and personal affairs as well, property. Now, what are the benefits of doing an LPA? Right? LPA gives you more control over what happens to you and allows you to choose someone you trust as your donor. And it helps your loved ones to avoid the hassle, because your donor can automatically assume responsibility when you lose mental capacity. They don't have to go to court to make an order to manage your assets. Because if you have not made an LPA, then your loved ones will need to apply through the court, through a lawyer, to appoint you as a deputy. And that is open to challenges, or open to, and it could be expensive, and it takes quite a long time. So now, the next thing that I want to explain is what is advanced care planning, or ACP. Okay, now ACP is actually a formal process of planning and sharing how you want to be cared for in the event that you become seriously ill and unable to make decisions for yourself. So let's say this process allows you to share your personal values and beliefs, or explore your values and how it affects your healthcare preferences in difficult medical situations. And it's important for you to think about, among your loved ones, who can become your voice if you become ill one day. Because you have legally appointed someone to be your donor in the LPA, but that person, when comes to making decisions, might be based on what he or she think or guess what you want. Whereas for ACP is that you, being now of sound mind, you state what you want and how you plan to be cared for if you lose mental capacity. Then your donor would simply be guided in their decision making in conjunction or together with the medical team. This is part of person-centered care. Now, take note that ACP is not a legal document because it's a plan. However, it is still very important. What happens is that for ACP, it's a formal plan that will be lodged in the National Electronic Health Record, which means that if something happened to you, accident or serious illness, and if you have done an ACP, the doctors can go into the health records. That means all government hospitals, ICU, A&E, certain hospice and nursing homes, doctors and medical social workers will have access. So it's important for you to have done your ACP and you just inform them, or your next of kin will just tell them that you have ACP and they'll be able to access it. But take note that as long as you have mental capacity, you will be consulted on the choice of your treatment. Of course, if you can talk, the doctors will ask you what you want, right? Now, in a medical crisis, where you are unable to communicate your wishes, the ACP will serve as a reference for the medical team. This is taken into consideration by the medical team when making decisions in your best interest when you lack mental capacity. Now, ACP is done by a trained facilitator such as myself, because only we have the access to the website and to be able to download this information. So it's important for us to sit down and discuss with you, know your background, know your likes and dislikes, and what is unacceptable to you and what is acceptable or unacceptable. Now, the benefits of doing an ACP is to prepare you for the unexpected, right? What if you met with an accident that left you unable to speak for yourself, or you fall seriously ill one day, or let's say if you lose mental capacity because of dementia. Now it's very common, a lot of people are getting dementia, and then gradually you lose your mind. So this is a time when you have an anticipatory approach when the time comes to make end-of-life decisions, many people are incapable of participating in those decisions. A lot of times, what the patient wants is very different from what the family members think. So that's why it is important for the family members or the medical team to respect the patient's preference. Now, the benefits of doing ACP, firstly, it reduces stress on the family, because it may be difficult for family members and healthcare team to predict what type of care that would be preferred by the patient, right? Because a lot of times, especially elders, they don't want to suffer, they don't want to suffer pain, they rather go, a lot of them will say that don't put me on life-sustaining treatment, but their loved ones, if they have not indicated this, their loved ones would feel bad to let them go, so they might find all kind of ways to extend or give the kind of treatment to prolong the person's life, but the person may end up suffering instead. So it's good for you to make an indication through ACP. Then your loved ones will know how best to treat you based on your preference. And of course, this is to avoid futile treatment. Like some people say that I rather not have surgery. I don't want to waste money, So that's why they would rather say that, tell their family members, no, let me go, don't waste money on surgery, etc. Okay, so this is what I have explained for both LPA and ACP. I hope that's clear for you.
Oh, okay. So Sammy, when does this take effect then?
Okay, that's a good question. Now, when does LPA and ACP take effect? To make it easier for you to understand, here is a person's lifespan. You can see the blue line here. This is a person's lifespan. Okay, so these are the two main documents. Of course, there are two more other documents which we are not discussing here. The AMD means Advanced Medical Directive, and the will. Now, your person's lifespan for the ACP, it takes effect the moment a person is diagnosed with serious illness or injury. So even when you can speak or cannot speak, if you have done an ACP, you inform the medical team, and the medical team will discuss with you or your loved ones. Whereas the LPA, lasting power, only comes into effect when a person loses mental capacity or unable to communicate. Then your next of kin will have to inform the Office of Public Guardian that so-and-so have lost mental capacity. Of course, you have to prove it by producing a medical record of the person. And with the medical record, as well as the letter of approval that you are the donee, then your LPA will come into effect, and you can be allowed to take over the person's affairs. Whereas if you see the AMD, many people will think that, oh, I have done AMD, it's good enough, no need to do ACP. So AMD is more or less the document that states that you don't want to be resuscitated. You rather do not want to be kept alive with artificial life support. But this only comes into effect when the person is terminally ill and dying, right? Then you don't want the life-sustaining treatment. And all these documents will cease to take effect upon the person's death. Then the will will take over. So I hope this explains when this will take effect.
Yes. Thank you for explaining so detailed. Okay, then but who is involved in all this planning?
Okay. There are various people that are involved in this. So now who is involved? Firstly, you'll be the person itself, the donor. Okay. So you first need to think and reflect, what does it mean by living well? What gives my life meaning and purpose? And who gives me strength and support me in difficult times? And who can I trust to be my voice when I can no longer speak? So that's yourself. Then you need to consider to choose your donee for LPA. Now, when choosing the donee, right, they need to have mental capacity to make their own decisions, and they must agree to be your donee. You cannot just arrow somebody and appoint without their agreeing, right? And then you must also understand how well they manage their own affairs, example of finances, right? If you know that person cannot handle money properly, you won't expect the person to handle your affairs properly, right? And how well they know your wish and healthcare and financial matters. That person must be able to understand you well enough. Now, whether you trust them to make the decision in your best interest, because the moment they make decision, you are already unable to decide. So they will have to make it based on your best interest. And whether they can handle the responsibility of making decisions for you. Because usually these type of things happen under very stressful circumstances. Could be in the ICU or some, pressure moments of under severe pressure. Now, you can appoint up to 2 donees, okay, and 1 replacement donee. So a replacement is like a reserve. So in case one of your donee cannot, is not available, either is overseas or passed on or has gone bankrupt, then your reserve comes in. But it is not necessary for you to have a replacement. This is just like a backup, right? So a person to replace an appointed donee in the following events: death or loss of mental capacity or bankruptcy or divorce, if in case of a spouse. Now, for ACP, you have to choose what they call an NHS or nominated healthcare spokesperson. So the terms are such: for LPA, it is called donor-donee, right? For ACP, the person you appoint is called the nominated healthcare spokesperson or NHS, right? So you can choose 1 or 2 persons, and anyone who is 21 years old and above, and anyone you trust. Could be a friend, a relative, or spouse or partner. But it's important to take into consideration when you choose NHS, right? These are the things that you have to consider. Are they willing? Right? Do they understand your preference, your values, your beliefs? Are they able to follow your preference and wishes? And are they able to speak up during very stressful situations? Now, your LPA and ACP nominees should be aligned. That means whoever you appoint as your donee in LPA should preferably be the same person in your ACP. Because why? One has the legal right to make decisions on your behalf, whereas the ACP, NHS has the knowledge about what you want for yourself, right? So if you choose different person, then there might be a conflict of decision making. So it's best to be the same person. So how to make the LPA? Okay, first you have to appoint a donee and then you fill up the forms. Then another person that's involved is the certificate issuer. Okay, the LPA form must be signed by either an accredited medical doctor, because not all doctors can do LPA. It must be accredited, or a practicing lawyer or a psychiatrist. Okay, because sometimes when you have borderline dementia, the doctor may not be able to sign for you. They will refer you to a psychiatrist or geriatric doctor to be able to ascertain your level of mental capacity. Or you can go to a lawyer. Now, once you have signed the form, then you have to send it to the Office of Public Guardian. And after 3 weeks, your LPA will be registered if there are no objections. Because it takes 3 weeks, but in case some large families, there may be objections. If some children say, how come you choose this, you never choose me, the kind of thing. But after 3 weeks, if there are no objections, then your LPA is registered, right? Now for ACP, you need to see a facilitator to arrange for ACP discussion. So let's say my client make an appointment to see me, I will sit down and discuss with them and the family members, the NHS. So after the discussion, the client signs the ACP form for the facilitator to upload in the electronic health records. So these are all the people that is involved in the whole process.
Okay. Then, but how much does all of this cost if you're going to put them all together?
Good question. Okay. Now, how much does it cost? Okay. For LPA, it can cost, you need to pay for the certificate issuer to sign the form. Okay. And it costs anywhere between $25 to $200, because because it depends on where you go. Okay, so like for instance, if you see a lawyer, it might be cost around this range, or if you go to certain organizations, it will cost this range. So it could be anywhere in between. Now, for submitting the document to Office of Public Guardian, right, which incidentally, OPG, Office of Public Guardian, comes under the Ministry of Social and Family Development, MSF. Now, actually, there's a registration fee of $75. However, the government has waived it currently. It's waived until 31st March next year. So from now till next year, you don't have to pay this amount. Come 31st March, they may extend the waiver again, because this has been waived for the past 3-4 years already. So let's hope government, to encourage more sign-ups, they will waive the fee again. Now, for the ACP, now it depends. For under SATA, for us, we bundle the service together. So if you are Merdeka or Pioneer Generation or CHAS, Blue or Orange card holder, right? For LPA and ACP is $59. Whereas if you don't have all these cards, it's $96. But if you just do ACP alone without LPA, if you have Pioneer, Merdeka or CHAS, then it's free. But if you don't have these cards and if you just want to do ACP alone, it costs you $40. So that's how much it costs.
Wow, okay. Now, where can I get more information about ACP and LPA if I want to actually go about doing it? Where can I find all this information?
Okay, right. Now, where can I find this information? Now, I have 2 QR codes here. Now, you can scan our QR code for SATA. It will lead you to our website, or you can email to this acp@sata.com.sg. Then your email will come to me. Then I can respond. Or you can scan directly. If you don't want to email, you can just scan directly and go to the website. And the website, you can find out more. The other thing is, I recommend you also try this government agency. This is called My Legacy. It is a government agency. It's a one-stop portal for you to gain information on a range of things. So mylegacy.gov.sg gives you a lot of information on also service providers for all these various services, as well as also talk about what you can do, or also there's link to CPF, insurance, end of life planning, etc. So it's good for you to explore both websites. But if you want to come to SATA for our services or know more, you can contact me at SATA.
Okay, thank you, Sammy. I think that's a lot of information to take in. Yeah, and it's something that all of us should consider also, right?
Yes. Now, one thing I like to add is that you should start your conversation with your loved ones. And the best is, sometimes this is a very touchy subject, especially you talk about all this. So how do you bring this subject up? I know it's a very taboo subject in Singapore. To the elders, sometimes they don't want to burden their children, so they don't speak up. The young ones, they are afraid to bring up to the elders, so in case the elders would think that, oh, you're hoping for me to die faster or something like that. So sometimes if nobody brings this up, nobody talks about it. So how to kickstart a conversation? So the best is you share what you have witnessed or learned from past experience or encounters. So for instance, let's say you saw someone who is seriously ill in hospital, a relative or so and so, and say, hey, what happened if that's me? Or you read a newspaper article, or you see a TV show, a lot of this type of drama. After, look at that, what happened to them? Suppose this thing happened to us. So this is a kickstart. So from there, then you can broach the subject of LPA and ACP. Otherwise, if nobody talk about it, then nobody take action. I hope that's clear.
Yes, thank you, Sammy. Yeah,
You're most welcome.
Discussing with our loved ones is something, if we do care about them, we also should go about learning how to approach the topic.
Yes.
So I think that's all the time that we have for today. So thank you so
Yes.
much for sharing and your time as well. And do check out the QR codes that Sammy
Yeah.
has shared earlier to find out more information on LPA and ACP.
Okay. Thank you so much. You're most welcome.
Thank you.